That was the most amazing night. And this guy came up to me and said, "How does it feel to be at this party naked?" And I went, "I don't give a what any of you guys think."
Oh my gosh, that dress, well.
They start by getting you completely naked.
That will go in the time capsule, and that was Bob's idea.
You gotta be ready to be noticed if you're wearing Bob Mackie.
I saw it in the window and I just couldn't resist it.
Because all the real stars, all the biggest stars, wore Bob Mackie.
This native Californian, Mr. Bob Mackie, honed his exquisite sense of glamour and theatricality into an art form.
And the clothes of Bob Mackie were very much part of what I absorbed as visual beauty.
You can't just show up. You gotta show off. So I knew what I needed to do. Big hair and get a Bob Mackie.
People were horrified. Why, that's not fashion.
When I was on the ship, oh God, when I was on the ship with the sailors.
It's like 2 strips of a seatbelt and a leather jacket.
He knows exactly how to dazzle and entertain.
I mean, Bob invented the red carpet as far as I'm concerned.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a word, share.
He's the only one who does this detail.
Was he always embraced or was he not embraced?
Fashion is a little snobby, right? I think time tells truth, right?
So, what were you like as a little boy? Were you like fantasizing?
I was the strangest child you've ever met.
They're a little artistic and they're things that you want to do and nobody understands.
What does he do? Well, he's a costume designer. Well, he must be gay. That's the first thing you get.
I think the movies absolutely formed me as a designer, and I went, oh, I could do this. I bet I could do this. You have to think about the mood and the person's talent that's wearing it. Can they wear this? Can they get away with it?
And as the time went by, he would have to think up one thing after another. And the other day, he did one of the great outfits, and we were all oohing and awing.
Thank you for coming in. This is great.
Hello, everybody. This is such a treat. I got to watch this movie last week, but I'm very excited that everyone here got to see it tonight in this.
I saw it last week, too.
But we are so excited to be here. Welcome, and Bob, thank you so much for being here tonight. This is such a treat for all of us.
It's fun. It's fun when you see people watching it, because it's just a movie.
Well, I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm too respectful to call you Bob. I'm going to call you Mr. Mackie. I was trying it out, but it just doesn't sound right. I was just telling Mr. Mackie outside that when I had an uncle who spoiled me when I was little, and for Christmas when I was 6 years old, he got me the Bob Mackie Christmas Barbie. And it was so precious that my mother wouldn't let me take it out of the box. So
Mothers do that.
So it just sat on my dresser, and it might still be there. But I did want to hear from you, Bob, a little bit. I feel like I learned so much in this movie, and one of the things that I learned was about your background in costume design and how that informed you dressing people for the red carpet. And I love the quote that you said, when you're a costume designer, you have to think about how a hat stays on. It's at the beginning when you're drawing for your
with my
great-granddaughters.
little darling girls.
How did were there ever any sort of tricky decisions about dressing women for the red carpet that you pulled
it's
knowledge
kind of
from
interesting.
costume design?
I started knowing the Dietrichs of the world and everything, and there's those stories about these women, certain women,
had to know, well, which side am I coming out on? Well, I have to know which side the split up to here should be, because you don't want to walk out the side and all of a sudden it's upstage and nobody can see your legs, because you're known for your legs. And it was always like that. It was always, people had to think about it all.
Wow. And when you first started working with Edith Head, who I have to say is sort of an icon for me, so I was very excited to hear about that. Was there...
I could fix that for you.
Well, that's what I want to know.
No, I quit school. I was in a art school doing the costume design department, and I was there for 2 years, and I'd won a lot of awards already. So I thought, it's time for me to get to work. You can't, at 20 whatever, I shouldn't be in an art school. I should be working. And it was just kind of strange to go. I got hired the next day I went out.
Wow.
It was kind of like, I thought, oh, now I really have to do it. And there was a designer there doing a movie with Glenn Ford. So I'm sorry, Glenn Ford and Charles Boyer, and they were doing it in the south of France. And he said, I hate drawing the women's clothes, but I mean the men's clothes. I can draw the women's, but I can't draw the men's. Would you draw the men's clothes? So there I am for 2 weeks drawing Charles Boyer in pinstripe suits.
Wow.
And Glenn Ford in his jeans and his jean jacket, looking like he always looked, and while I was doing that, every day, Edith Head, who was working at Paramount at the time, would come in and just glance around to see what we were all doing. She was very curious. And after about a week, she came in and asked me, she said, you draw well. Do you know how to draw strippers? And I said, I bet I could work that out. Yeah, sure. And so I was sort of the glamour sex pot girl drawer.
Were there any specific strippers for specific films?
Well, it was a Paul Newman, Joan Woodward film made in Paris, and it wasn't a very good film. It was kind of awful, really. But it was fun to do, and they were pulling out old Dietrich gowns from the 30s and stuff to make a big fashion show in the film, and I thought that was all interesting.
Wow.
But then I got so people were expecting me to always do that kind of work. Can you imagine?
Stripper work?
Well, strippers and little flash here and a little oozing there. It's just kind of, it's funny when you get, you're there you are. You're expected to do that.
Absolutely. And then what were some of the things you learned from Edith Head? Is there anything sort of you remember of her pearls of wisdom?
Her pearls of wisdom was that she wasn't really much of a designer, but she wanted to be famous. And she stole sketches from the school, from their attic, and got jobs that way.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and she admitted it later, but people were talking about it, and finally she just kind of gave in and admitted it.
Wow!
And the man that was running the department at Paramount said, it took a lot of nerve to do that, and I think I'm going to keep you here because you're going to be okay. Whatever that meant. And anyway, I had a good time being there. And then from there on, I just went on and did different things. But
wow. I have to say, I feel like you, for better or for worse, sort of invented the naked dress. And now it's, for better for you, but now I feel like you maybe unleashed Pandora's box for the rest of the naked world.
It's scary, isn't it? I mean, all these little child girls that work at Disney, all want to be sex pots now.
They do.
And it's kind of, and they all learn. I mean, they learn a lot when they're there. They learn how to do everything, lighting and makeup and choreography, and it's quite a college of entertainers, and most of them have that quality that a lot of young actresses might have, is that they're just born to be on stage. They can't stand not to be a performer. And you're not really. Are you a performer? Do you act?
I'm not.
You're not at all. No. I didn't think you were.
No.
I mean, I watched you grow up, darling. It's always, I always wonder about children of stars. not actresses so much, just stars.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing place to be. But especially if you have a smart star mother.
My mother is a smart star
She
mother.
really is, and lovely.
And although her memory is terrible, and I said to her today, do you remember wearing Bob Mackie? She goes, yes. And I can't tell you about it, but I remember loving wearing it.
You know, I don't know that she ever did, really, but I watched her every time. I just thought she was great, and she was like a reporter for a while and did stories and things. And just a lovely woman, you know, but sometimes they're not lovely women. They're just there being actresses, if you know what I mean.
There is a great quote in the film or I don't know if it was in the film or in an article or an interview I read, where RuPaul says all the real stars wore Bob Mackie.
Yeah, he did say that.
I wonder,
for him that was important, you know.
Was there a white whale of a star that it's probably not the most flattering term to describe a celebrity who's wearing a naked dress, but sorry, what you're Moby Dick celebrity.
Well, when I first started working in that business, I worked for Jean-Louis, who was a French designer and had come to America in the 40s and got out to Hollywood and did a lot of things, did a lot of Rita Hayworth and glamour girls, but good glamour girls. And it was just kind of odd, the whole thing. But they're there. They're there. But I love the young girls now that are wanting to be.
Who is someone that you would love to dress now that you haven't? Or was there someone from yesteryear that you would love to have dressed?
Yesteryear, which was really high school into college for me, was Audrey Hepburn.
Okay.
Because she was so beautiful and so lovely and just adorable. You just wanted to love her because she was so amazing.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of those, really. But when they are, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. What makes a Bob Mackie woman now?
Oh, I don't know.
I think you do.
Crazy old whore. No, I love the performers. I love the performers that love to perform.
Yeah.
That just enjoyed it so much. And my first client ever was Mitzi Gaynor, who could move, and she was funny, and she had a great sense of humor, and was always having parties at her house and whatever, and that was fun. And I loved dressing her. We lost her this last year, and I miss her a lot. But she was my first client, really.
Wow.
And then I moved over and did some Judy Garland, who had been around forever, but was just maybe 40, whatever, when I first worked with her.
Wow, it does feel like she was around forever.
She was. Well, she was like 3 or 4 in vaudeville with her sisters, her older sisters.
Wow.
And sang better than all of them, you know.
What was she like to work with?
Iffy. Just a little iffy. Well, they treated her badly in those days when they treated those actually kids that were being actresses and actors in a bad way. They put them on diets, and they made them work all night if they needed to, and they didn't worry about it. And Judy went through all that. So Judy was a little bit wobbly by that time, but I liked her, and I got to go to her house on Sunday night and watch her show in her house, and we'd have shepherd's pie.
Oh my God!
Because that was her favorite dish.
Oh my God!
Yeah, which is funny, you know. And my favorite story is from the film when all of a sudden she says, "Well, I've got to call John right now. I have to call him today." And I said, "Who's John?" And I was the assistant designer, and the other designer was Ray Agian, and so it was fun being part of all that. And Judy would watch herself and just enjoy watching her own performing so much. I love that, though. You know, it was funny. She would laugh, and she just thought it was so good. And,
oh my God!
You know, but that's part of being an entertainer. Really, you've got to like what you're doing if it's funny and making people laugh and enjoy you.
Wow.
It's actors are very odd creatures.
Very odd.
Yes. They really are. And sometimes you adore them, and sometimes you go, oh, God, get me out of here.
But they're always interesting.
They're always interesting, you know, and I had some doozies, you know, the Carol Channings of the world and those kinds of girls, you know, they're just the way it was. Anyway.
Good stories.
Well, there are a lot of good stories, especially if I've had a couple of glasses of wine. I'm sorry, go ahead. I stole.
You didn't
the
steal.
Time here.
No, not at all. Was the 1974 Met Gala, was that your first big red carpet moment for Cher?
Well, yeah. Well, she'd been doing a few things, but not that many, really. And we had, how did I did that dress for a collection of Elizabeth Arden wanted some very glamorous dresses for the Elizabeth Arden that they were building in Beverly Hills. And so that was one of the dresses, and the others were like big sort of chiffon caftans of that time, that early 70s thing. And it just happened. And of course, Cher, I said, was invited to do, she'd been doing a lot of Diana Vreeland kind of photo things in the fashion magazines, and she got invited to the party, and it was the only one. And people, the glamour girls were wearing kind of sort of dressy but sporty looking evening clothes.
Interesting.
Yeah, not the way it is now. Now they just all look like you know, overwrought Barbie dolls or whatever. If you know what I mean.
So describe, because you escorted Cher to the 1974 Met Gala, and I'm, as someone who works at Vogue, curious the difference between the Met Gala then versus, you went again recently for the camp exhibit.
I did.
2019.
Well, but that's such an old-fashioned word. Nobody knew what it meant.
Camp?
The camp
Yeah.
thing. And they came as packed picnic lunches and things like that, because it's for camp. We're out in the camp having a luncheon. And I went, wait a minute, this is not what it means, you know. And I remember I was working for some couple of male designers, and everything was so campy. Oh, it was so campy. And I kept saying, what does that mean? What does that mean? I had no idea at the time.
Wow.
But I found out in a hurry.
What was it like? How would you describe your collaboration with Cher? Was it push-pull? Were you like an old married couple bickering? Did you always agree?
No. She was an odd girl. She wanted to be important in a show business girl, and her mother was an actress of sorts at Fox maybe, and beautiful and looked great in bathing suits. So she did a lot of pinup work and all that, and quite beautiful. And I never could figure out why Cher sounded like she did when she sang. I said, how'd she learn to sing like that? And then she did a record with her mother a few years later, and they sounded exactly alike. So if you start singing like your mother, watch out.
And did she ever push you farther than you thought you should go with the design, or vice versa?
A couple of times. She got so used to being, you know, sort of ba-ba-boom, you know, that she, if it wasn't like that, she felt like she was cheating.
Interesting.
And that's how, and that dress had been made, and we used it for a Vogue magazine layout with
which dress?
With Richard Avedon, the nude dress.
Okay.
And that's how that happened. It happened in Vogue magazine, and then it went on. And I said, well, what would you like to wear to the party? We were invited to that party with Mrs. Vreeland, who thought some of the Hollywood clothes were the best made clothes, better than the European couture quite often.
Interesting.
And she says, well, I want to wear my dress. I said, what dress? She says, you know, the dress, the one with the feathers and whatever. And she wore it. And people were just there, you know, the men in dark suits, some were in tuxes. It was just, and some old famous old stars, you know, Lillian Gish and all that bunch, Paulette Goddard and different ones. And I thought it was kind of interesting, and I had a good time going. But the minute we walked in the room, all of a sudden what was kind of a half-empty big part of the opening of the Met Gala, the Met Museum, there must have been 300 photographers there just going crazy, taking pictures of her. And by the next morning, she was in every newspaper in the country in that dress. And then, and then people were horrified because they said, well, this isn't fashion. This is just trash. And of course, they're still printing that picture.
Wow.
Every season when the awards are on, they're printing that picture. Or her mohawk, which was pretty funny to start with. but fun.
Where is the mohawk now?
It's in a box. It's in a box, and it goes on exhibits once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of most of her clothes go on exhibit because they're not real clothes.